Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk to you all about unreconciling specific transactions, undoing entire reconciliations, and also what to do if your beginning bank balance is off in detail. So some of these can get a little convoluted. I'm going to do my very best to explain everything in detail and cover all the bases. However, if I don't end up answering your question today, please drop it in the comments so that I can address it in the future. I really want you guys to get the most out of these videos, and I want everyone to understand how to use this QuickBooks Online system. So let me know. Also, you can subscribe at any time during this video. Okay, let's get into it. We're just going to jump right into our QuickBooks screen here, our sample company. We're going to navigate over to the Reconcile tab. So if something is off in your account, this is where you're going to see it. Now, what would this look like if something was off? I'm going to show you. We're looking at the checking account here. If we go up to our bank transactions and our checking account and go into our bank register, this column here, this checkbox column right here, this is where we're going to go to see what's been reconciled, what's been cleared, and what's still kind of hanging out there in our account that hasn't cleared the bank yet. And typically what you'll see here is the most recent transactions will have nothing in this column because they haven't cleared yet and they haven't been reconciled. As we scroll down to the older transactions, we'll see more transactions that have cleared. And as we go even further down, we will see any transactions that have been reconciled with a capital R in this column. Okay, that means they've been reconciled and they don't need any further attention. The way that a transaction gets from the blank status to having a C or a cleared icon in this column is when the transaction is categorized. So if we go back out to our bank feed, we're seeing all these transactions that need attention. The first one on this list here is an expense for $18.08. In our bank register, we see this transaction here and it has nothing in this column. And that's because we have not done anything with it yet in our bank feed. So what we're going to do is go back to our bank feed. We're going to match it and we're going to come back here and we'll see that it's cleared. So back to bank reconciliations, we're going to go ahead and match this transaction because we know that all this information is correct. Now, once we go back to the bank register and scroll down to that transaction, now our $18.08 has a cleared status. Now, once we've actually gone through and reconciled an entire month's statement, that's when we'll see the transactions have the R or reconciled status. So any of these can also be manipulated. To do that, you're just going to click anywhere in this row to expand the transaction. And by clicking on this little oval, you'll see the status of the transaction change. So if we change it from reconciled to uncleared and we save it, QuickBooks will give us a warning because it thinks that we're making a mistake, which we are. It's also going to let us know that this transaction has been reconciled, and if we undo it, we're going to be out of balance. We know this. We're doing it anyway. Now we'll go back to reconcile, and this time, since we just unreconciled that transaction, our beginning balance is off. So we can fix this pretty easily. So whenever you get this warning, there will be a link you can click here, and this will kind of tell you what the issue is. So we can see here that, oh, this transaction must have accidentally gotten unreconciled. Now that we know what transaction it is, we can just go back into our bank register, find that transaction of $55, click to expand it, and then click until we get an R in that oval again. Now we'll save that, go back to our reconcile screen, and this time we do not get an error message. We're good to go. Pro tip, do not start a reconciliation if you get that warning. You will need to figure out what the issue is before you can move forward. So whenever you're in doubt, the first and best course of action is to go into your bank register and look at the transactions that are reconciled and unreconciled and see if you can figure out where the balance is off. It may just be a case of something was accidentally unreconciled. If your bank balance is off because there are too many transactions reconciled, you may just also have to go into this register and unreconcile whatever is incorrect. So for example, if your ending balance is inflated by $10, you may just have a transaction that's reconciled that shouldn't have been. Okay, you could also have an issue where your beginning balance is off, but the transaction that you need doesn't exist in your QuickBooks file. So let's say that this Books by Bessie transaction doesn't exist in QuickBooks. So we're going to go ahead and delete this one. And we'll say for the sake of this video that for some reason that Books by Bessie transaction did not get entered into QuickBooks. It didn't sync through the bank feed or something. That's a pretty rare thing to happen, but let's just say it got deleted somehow. And we're going to reconcile our next month, which would be May, the end of May. And now we'll see that we're off by this $55 transaction again. First things first, click on the We Can Help You Fix It button. This is always going to give you a snippet of what the issue was. And in this case, we can see very clearly that this transaction was deleted. Okay, so the transaction was deleted. All we need to do is add it back in. So we're going to go to New Expense, put the vendor name in there, change the date. Bessie is our bookkeeper, and we paid her $55. Okay, so now this expense has been saved, but our balance is still off because we still need to re-reconcile that transaction. So to do that, we're going to go to Bank Transactions, and we will see this transaction show back up in our bank feed. All we need to do is match that, but we're still not done. We still need to go into the bank register and record that reconciled transaction. So we'll scroll down to get to that transaction. We see it here as being cleared because we moved it out of our bank feed. But to reconcile, we need to expand the transaction and then click in this oval until we see the capital R and save. Once we do that, our account should be balanced, and it is. We can see here on the screen that we don't have any error messages, and as long as we don't get any error messages, we know that we're balanced. Okay, now let's say either your bank or your credit card beginning balance is off, but you have never reconciled that account before. Now, if we go into our bank register and we go to the oldest date, pro tip, on pretty much any of your column headers, you can click the drop down arrow and it will rearrange the data. So if I click on this drop down for the date, it's going to take me to the oldest date. If I click on it again, it'll arrange the date from newest to oldest. If I click on this payment column, it's going to arrange all of the payments from smallest to largest. If I click again, it will rearrange it from ascending to descending order. We can do the same thing with the payees and pretty much all of the other column headers. In this case, we just want the oldest date. So I hit that date button again and we get the oldest date of January 20th, 2025. If everything has imported correctly, the oldest transaction here should have opening balance in the memo line and it should have a R for reconciled status. Now, if this is off in any way, and this could be that you imported your bank account or your credit card, but when you were doing so, you told it to pull maybe all of the transactions from the middle of the month instead of from the beginning of the month. And it didn't quite line up with what your statement says. So if you pulled all the transactions from the 15th of the month onward, but your statement starts on the 1st of the month and goes through the end of the month, you may have to tweak this balance so that it matches the beginning balance on your statement or whenever you decide to start recording your transactions. If you do need to change this balance, click on this opening balance row to expand it and then change the amount of your beginning balance. Now, when we go back to our bank transaction screen and then navigate to the Reconcile tab, we'll see that our beginning balance is now $2,000. So this number here, the beginning balance, will reflect the number that is here in this opening balance row of your bank register. If for whatever reason it's not an option to change the beginning balance in your bank register, a workaround for getting that balance corrected would be to make a journal entry. Okay, so what about undoing an entire reconciliation? So this will need to be done by your accountant user in your QuickBooks Online file, meaning you can't do it yourself. If you are an accountant user, what you can do to undo a reconciliation is go to your reconcile screen, go to history by account, and a list of all your reconciliations will be here. By clicking on this drop down arrow here, you'll see a couple of options: print report or undo. Now, I know we can't see the undo button here because we are in a sample company. If we weren't in a sample company, this is the button we would see here. Once you click on that undo button, you'll get a warning asking if you're sure you want to undo your reconciliation. Pro tip: if you need to undo say a year's worth of reconciliations, instead of going one by one to undo them all, just go to the oldest reconciliation that you want to undo, and you'll see this batch undo button, which will undo every reconciliation that post dates that one. Okay, so now hopefully you have a better understanding of how to unreconcile individual transactions, how to undo an entire reconciliation, and how to fix beginning balance issues. If this video helped, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe. Also, drop your questions and feedback below in the comments section, and we'll see you in the next one.